Let me just start by saying that to be here after 10 years at the Converge in Chennai, for me, it is truly an honor, a pleasure, and a blessing to be amongst all of us again together as a family and a community of Don Bosco. It's a very, very special moment for me to be here amongst all of you. I want to thank our director, Dharma, and your team. Just nothing short of spectacular what you pulled together. It's magic. He's a little threatening when I see him playing tennis nowadays. Because the other day when I saw him play tennis at Presidency Club in Chennai, I made the mistake of comparing his backhand to Federer's backhand. I promise I won't make that mistake again. The one thing that truly inspired me in my career is each and every one of you who truly made the difference to two countries, not just India, but this country as well. And when I came here in 1972, the last thing I expected to meet up and see or visit with were not just people from Chennai, but people from DB, but also from the biggest cities to the smallest towns in this country and across the world. It gave me an opportunity to be in your homes. I was welcomed into people's homes when they first came here, single, sometimes newly married, sometimes with little children, apartments not furnished, but we sat on the ground, had dal and roti together, and enjoyed our moment of being together in a foreign land. And what you all have incredibly achieved to make the difference to where India is today, with or without your knowledge, is what truly inspired me also when I was in a job that was slightly different from yours. The only difference between my job and yours was the fact that mine was just a little bit more public, and nothing else. And so, when I look back at my career as I was inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, I look back to see what you all have done to have been able to make that difference. And so, for me, it was not just me entering the Hall of Fame in Rhode Island, but for all of us collectively, as Indians, as people from Chennai, a variety of cities across the country, and from our school, that actually are in the Hall of Fame. So, I just wanted to say a great big thank you to each and every one of you, to all your families, the difference that you made to my life as I tried to make mine between here and India. You'll be happy to know that after living in this country for 45 years, I still carry my Indian passport. And it was for a simple reason that having played, fortunate to have played Davis Cup for the country for over 20 years, that it made a difference to my life and where India is today. So, huge congratulations to each and every one of you, and so many of us fellow Indians who live across the world. There are about 40 million of us living outside the US that make the difference to what India is today, what the relationship India has with the respective countries that we all live in, and that is truly what makes the country we live in also a better place because of each and every one of you. So congratulations to you, to each of your families, and everyone that have made your life special, India life special, and most importantly for me, my life special. So thanks very much. Okay. Okay, so this is supposed to be a free-for-all, so he can ask me whatever he wants. Anything he wants, he can ask me.
So the first question, is my backhand as good as Pedra's backhand?
Okay, so I made a mistake the first time, okay? That's it. Should we sit?
Yeah, sure.
Alright.
So glad that you're here with us. Once again, many congratulations on achieving the highest honor in tennis, the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Thank you. It's not something you go for. No, that's okay. Thank you so much.
And more recently, many of you would have heard the news, or may have heard the news, that the main stadium in Chennai, Nugambakam, the main stand has been named after Vijay Amritraj. Many congratulations on that as well. So while preparing for the Fireside chat, I was trying to make out something which I should ask you. And then reviewing that list, it looked like I would require 3-4 hours of your time. Since we don't have all of that, I just made it a few. To start with, we have this question, transitioning from Church Park, the 5th standard, to a boys' school, Don Bosco in Egmont. How difficult was it? Did you really miss your friends? Did you miss your girlfriends? How did it feel?
When I went to Church Park, I was there till 4th standard. It's a 3rd standard. I was looking forward to meeting them all after 11th standard. But I ended up in a boys' school after 5th standard. 6th standard onwards, I was in Don Bosco. And unfortunately, I didn't perform very well. Somebody said during the course of the morning discussions that you'll have all the records of the people who passed through Don Bosco from 62. From Dharma's time all the way to today, you have the records. Digitized. And I was just wondering whether there was any chance of destroying the 68 records.
Father Victor's here. All the controls with him.
No, I wasn't obviously very, very good in the class, but I couldn't quite understand one thing about Don Bosco, I have to admit, Father, and I wonder whether you all still have it. And that is, after each test and exam, you rank people 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They were ranking. So if you were 30 people in the class, Anand knows, if you were 30 people in the class, if you were ranked 27, 28, 29, 30, you were in the first row. So I was constantly in the first row, easy access for the masters to, Yeah, the beating I got from McEnroe and Connors was nothing compared to the masters in school. But the moments that we had at Don Bosco were special to us, and we didn't realize how special they were when we were in school. But they were special to us when we left. And once we left, we started to think more about the incredible effort that teachers went through to be able to make something of us along with our parents to actually put us out in public. And I think that for that we will be eternally grateful for DB. Truly.
Moving on, for being this aggressive young athlete in school, playing badminton, tennis, to becoming a tennis star and becoming the ABC of tennis, Amritraj, Bog and Connors. Could you take us through your journey? How did you choose tennis over badminton? And could you take us through the journey from school to
I think the tennis was pretty much the sport of our family, and I had a lot of health issues when I was growing up, and so the doctors advised that I should play an outdoor sport to expand my lungs. At one point I tested positive for tuberculosis, and so my athletic ability of cardio wasn't very good at all, so I couldn't run from here to there, and there were those issues. So when the doctors advised me to play an outdoor sport, I had to my mother and father were so involved in tennis, they loved the game. And my mother would drive the car alongside me as I ran on the road, down Sterling Road. 10 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards. And then eventually, much later, I would run down, all of you know Chennai very well, so I can talk about the geography. Ran down Sterling Road. We lived opposite Lila College in those days, and we would run down Sterling Road, then get onto College Road, and then come around Casamajor Road, and then come back down Spurtank Road, and then come back down Chatpat and come back. It was a good 5, 7, 8 miles. And we did that every morning at 5 o'clock. And then came back and played an hour of tennis. And then we had from 8:30 to 9:05 before we went to school. And literally ended up in school as the bell rang. 3:45, as soon as it got out, we got back into the car and we ate in the back of the car, changed in the back of the car, and then got to play 3 more hours of tennis. And then came back, ran 2 more miles, then we would do exercise, and then do my homework. Now my homework, my mother did for me every night. And she studied also for my exams. So I made just light of it, but the good news was, Father, for one set of school fees, we were both educated. I remember specifically one poem during English class. We had a poem called Godfrey, God and Gustavus Go, Anand would remember. And we knew it was going to come up in the test the next day. And so I was studying it at the dining table with my mother. And my mother said it, and I would read it. And my mother said it, and I would read it. And she would get also a little upset that I wasn't picking it up because she had picked it up. And I wasn't picking it up. So finally, the interesting aspect of that poem was the fact that everybody in the house knew it except me. The next day when it came on the test, I actually left out that question. I suppose I myself couldn't understand it. And there were great moments like this that I think we learned a lot from. And then often people have asked me what inspired you to do well in a particular sport that wasn't really an Indian sport. It was truly a Western sport. Tennis is a Western sport. It started in the UK. And I think when I was about 7, 8 years old, and Anand would have been 9.5, Ashok would have been 4.5. My mother had her first horrific accident. In the old days, we had these kerosene stoves that were used for cooking. And when she was boiling some hot water, the kerosene stove fell on her. And so the sari caught fire and she burned to the ceiling. And she was, what, 30 years old, 31 years old. And so she burned from the neck down, she was completely burnt. And taken to the hospital where she was in there for a year. And with skin grafting and so on. And we saw that firsthand, right across the dining table. My father jumped on her, put out the fire with his hand and burnt his chest and his arms. And she came out of it, and every month or so, 3 months or so, she would go in for dress changing, which was also involved general anesthesia. And then started a business to pay for my tennis because Dad was in the railways and it was a good position in the railways, but the salary was never enough. And she was explaining to one of the boys that this is the machine, this is how it works when you're making corrugated cardboard boxes. It had 31 blades in it. And unfortunately, as she explained it, 4 years after this initial accident, her right hand got caught in the machine. She lost her right hand in the machine. Completely slipped from the wrist down. And they picked up the pieces from the machine, put it back together again at the hospital in a 9-hour surgery and told her that you will not be able to write, you will not be able to eat, and you will not be able to drive. And so she did all three so I could play. The reason those stories are etched in my memory is simply because when things become practically what we consider impossible, and in a sport, in my sport at least, it was very clear of a winner and a loser when you played a match. It was one-on-one. The evidence was clear, the result was clear. If you played badly, you lost. If you played good, well, you won. Those kinds of issues. But then you often faced situations where the impossible is facing you, it's right in front of you, and you think that is not possible to do anything from here. And it's interesting because that's when these real moments apply to us in life. Whether it's in business, whether in business you're having a bad quarter, whether you're a public company, whether you're a private company trying to go public, whether in the time of the marketing guys not working with the tech guys are not working with the biz dev guys, and so on and so forth, they're not working with the team together, and the CEO is pulling his hair out because he has to answer to a board. And so on and so forth. There are a variety of things in business, whether it's our home life, whether it's with spouses, whether it's with kids, whether it's with grandparents, there's so many issues that we face on a regular basis. For me, the easiest analogy has always been to my sport. It always came back to my sport, it always came back to the way we grew up, it always came back to my DB days, it always came back to my time at home. Another, perhaps, relevant example. In 1974, I led India to the Davis Cup final for only the first time since tennis went open. And we were due to play South Africa in the finals, and India decided to default to South Africa in the Davis Cup final. I was 20 years of age. We defaulted to Davis Cup final to South Africa because of their apartheid policies at the time. As an athlete, you're disappointed, because that would have been the first time that we could have won, we could have beaten South Africa, and we could have put India's name on the Davis Cup. 1974. But Mrs. G was our Prime Minister at the time, and incredibly made the right decision at that time. We were the last sport left in South Africa. Eventually, we defaulted them. Their victory was hollow. Apartheid fell in 1991. And Mandela was released. It took us 13 more years for me to lead India to the final again in 1987. And the interesting thing about 1987 is I was at the tail end of my career. I was 34 years old, 34 years old. The Argentinian team that we were playing had two guys who were outstanding. The 21-year-old was ranked 7 in the world at the time. The 23-year-old was ranked 16 in the world at the time. And their doubles team was ranked number 3 in the world. And they came to Delhi in the month of April. In April in Delhi can be quite warm. So I was also playing captain. Opening match, my wonderful colleague, compatriot, fellow player from Chennai, Ramesh Krishnan, played the first match. He led, but eventually lost to their number 1 player in the first match. So we were down 1-1. I was sitting in the captain's chair through all of this match. I went in, showered, came back, played their number 2 player, Mauricio de la Peña, ranked 16 in the world, who was 23 years of age, ended up winning in a 4-hour match. So we were 1 match on going into the second day. In the second day, Anand and I went out to play the doubles against Minucci and Frana, the Argentinian team ranked 3 in the world. The guys, Argentinian guys who played the first day had the day off. I was back playing again in the doubles. We ended up losing 8-6 in the 5th. So just under 5 hours. So I played little over 9.5 hours over 2 days, and I had to come out the next day at 11 o'clock to play their number 1 player, 21 years of age, ranked 7 in the world, who had had the day off, and I had played for 5 hours the day before. And I was at the tail end of my career. He wins the first set 6-3, he wins the second set 6-3, he's up 3-love, love 40 on my serve in the third set, and the crowd started to leave and go home. I managed to squeeze out the third set, 8-6, came to the locker room for our 10-minute break. They put me on the training table. The doctors checked me out. The trainer was working on my legs. The doctor looked at me and he said, listen, he's lost 11 pounds in weight in that match. And I was fevering all over. And the doctor said that he could not give me the NOC to go back out on the court to complete the match. And the team around me, my manager, the players, everyone said, listen, you've done really well, we're very proud of you, India is very proud of you, let's go home. So, at this moment is when you face that fork in the road. There is a moment where you can take the path that makes it comfortable, so you can remain good. Or you can take that path that makes it truly uncomfortable, that gives you the potential to be great. And so I said to my team, keep the ambulance close by, make sure the oxygen tank is courtside, but the only way I'm coming off that court is on a stretcher. So we went back out on the court. The Argentinian had 2 match points in the 4th set. I won 6-2 in the 5th, and India went to the final for the 2nd time. For me, those kinds of events are never tennis matches. They are moments in all of our lives. And for me, that was seeing my mom have those 2 accidents and come out of it to make me what I should be. They had very little to do with me, it had entirely to do with her. As I've always often said, saying some of our friends today, that my greatest talent was just being born to the right parents. Everything else was secondary. So I think when we look, the thing about my sport is it gave me clarity to life. It gave me a clarity to be something that people expect you to be, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, whether it's your parents, whether it's your grandparents. It's important that we're able to understand it. And I think the one understanding that comes with great clarity is my sport. And it just taught me everything from the time I was unhealthy to making myself healthy, to whether good or bad. I've won matches, I've lost matches, but those things were going to happen consistently and constantly. But you always look back at the 2 most ordinary people in the city, my parents, and they ended up doing extraordinary things in my life. So it is important for us to look back into ourselves, into our lives, and what we do in our normal daily walk of life, and how we can actually, is it possible to put a smile on the face of someone you don't know today? To me, that's a very important issue. We don't have enough of that around the world. And as I was saying earlier, just in my few words today, I think the important thing that you all have achieved, whether you know it or not, is what you have actually, the difference that you all have made to the rest of the world, especially India and everyone else that you've touched by being overseas. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible because I've seen this wherever I've gone, from Stockholm to Sydney, from Tokyo to Tashkent, from Bombay to Boston. I've been to people's homes and seen what they look at in each and every one of you and each and every one of us. And it's our job and our duty to be able to make that difference, and we're very fortunate to be able to do it. And can we then translate that also to our kids as we move forward? It's not easy, but I think we are put in different parts, in different situations to actually make a life difference. I'm sorry I've taken up too much of the time answering that question, but
we really enjoyed that bit from you. So taking it a little forward, people generally would think that you're retired or you're post your professional tennis career. But I've been watching you, you've got a lot of commitments, your brand commitment, you're the president of Tharakan Tennis Association, and many other Wimbledon commitments. So you're busy all the time. Between all this, seeing you at Presidency Club, and then understanding that you're coming back to Chennai just to be with your mother, and that your family was so central to all of what you did. and being the focus or the nucleus of, among the three brothers, it's not only you and your family, your brothers, your parents, and then your close friends. It's been truly inspirational that you hold family as the central value of your life. Really, that's really touched all of us to see and feel the amount of love you have for your parents and for your family. Going a little ahead, would it be right to say that 73, 74 was the best time of your tennis career? You came to the Wimbledon quarterfinals, you came to US Open quarterfinals, 74 again, you were in the Wimbledon quarterfinals. Was 73, 74 the best part of your tennis career in terms of your peak tennis form?
I think it's fair to say that when you're growing into it, I became Indian champion in my late teens, and then Asian champion. And then by 19, I was in the world's top 10. But the point is that at those moments when you're coming up, you're playing without expectation. And everyone is not expecting you to perform. And there's a moment in that moment, it's perhaps less pressure to perform. So you do well. The same thing happens towards the end of my career. When I was 34, 35, 36, people said the guy is old and dead, he's not going to be doing very much. So the expectation was low again, and then you perform. In between those 15 years was a... Yes. I've had people chase me down. Just today, I was hoping I can get away from this wonderful weekend by not bringing up memories of the close matches I lost. And yeah, somebody just brought up my match against Kodesh in 1973 and my match against Connors in 1981. And both matches I lost in 5 sets. And it's fantastic because I find Indians' memory of the matches I've lost much more. Thank you. So on purpose last year I invited Bjorn Borg to Chennai. So Bjorn Borg and his wife came to Chennai. We had a wonderful event for them. The city had a wonderful event for us. The government was spectacular. We had a huge big screen at the back, and we decided to show one of our old matches. Considering it was Chennai, and considering it was Borg, I did not pick the Wimbledon match. I picked the US Open match where I beat him in 5 sets. But 73, 74 were very special moments because there was no other person of color on the world tour. The only other man of color on the world tour was Arthur Ashe, if you remember him. Arthur Ashe won Wimbledon in 1975. Great man. And for us to go to places that was entirely white communities that actually came to watch matches. It was very rare to see someone else. And I think the important aspect for me also was the fact that when I left the town, wherever it was, that they would remember you for something more than the way you played. That was important. Not far from here, there's a place down in Houston called the River Roads Country Club. I don't know if you all have heard of it. It's down the River Roads Boulevard in Houston.
I got tickets from you
For the River Roads tournament. A spectacular event, spectacular facility. And I can't remember which 70s it was. It would have been 70s, December, 75, somewhere in there.
35.
When, sorry?
35.
75, I think it was. And then 70, the year before, Arthur Ashe was not allowed to play in that tournament. And Anand and I were there the year after. We played that tournament. I got to the final. I lost in the finals. And that was the year they created the Sportsmanship Award for that tournament and gave me their first Sportsmanship Award. And that my name is on that first board as you walk into the Road Center Club. I think the important factor for me was to be able to leave something else behind that people don't know at the time in the 70s where we all came from and what exactly where we belong to. That we're bringing more than our talent and our merit in making your country also better. So I think that to me made a big difference.
At the peak of your career, you beat all the best tennis players, Rod Laver, Bjorn Borg, Wickett, Jimmy Connors. Which was the most memorable of these four? Or which was the best or most satisfying beating?
Oh, that's an easy answer. McEnroe by a long shot. Because the first time I beat McEnroe was in Montreal in the Canadian Open, and he didn't talk to me for 6 months. I didn't miss it, but he didn't talk to me for 6 months. The second time I beat him in Cincinnati, we were sitting at the press conference together after the match. Strangely, normally the winner comes in and the loser comes in and you do the normal routine with the press. But this time we were both seated together, and he interestingly brought up a story that, this was in 81, when I beat him in 84. 84 he only lost 2 matches on the tour that year. The whole year he only lost 2 matches on the tour. One to me in Cincinnati and one to Lendl in the final of the French Championships. So it was a very big win for me at the time because it was 84. And he said to the press that, oh, Vijay probably doesn't remember this, but when he beat Laver at the US Open, I was the ball boy at the net. So the press said, oh, do you have something to say about that? And I said, yes, I should have hit him then, we wouldn't have him now. McEnroe was arguably one of the 2 most talented players the game has ever seen. And he was a true genius in every which way on the court. The reason I say genius is because there are lots of us good players and there were champions, and then there were great champions, and then there were geniuses. And McEnroe truly was one of those geniuses. And when I say genius, the reason I say genius is because if you know the game of tennis to some extent, when you're pushed into a corner to hit a particular shot, there are only 3 options. You go down the line, cross court, or over the head. And those are the 3 options you have. But when you're a genius, like McEnroe was, he had options 4, 5, and 6 that he himself didn't know which one he was going to use. And so there was no way for the opponent to know. That's why he was as great as he was.
Well, on that topic, there's a lot of discussion on who's the greatest of all time. With all the research, Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, and people forget Rod Laver in that discussion. In your opinion, who's the GOAT of all time?
So I was very fortunate to play many generations of players, and it was an incredible blessing to be able to do that, playing Laver and Borg and McEnroe and Connors and everyone before and after them. I think when you look at greatness, you always find greatness at that moment in time. At that moment in time, exactly what we were discussing today about artificial intelligence. It is now. It is a thing of today. It is something that's going to be out here in the future. It's something that you all are getting into perfection. Each of you are understanding it with the geniuses that you all are, to be able to pull it together and make it to today's use and use it only for positive use. That's a genius. So each generation, you find something that's handed to you and you try to be the best you can in that particular generation. If Laver had been put in with today's equipment, he would have been great. If Federer was back in time 50 years ago, he would have been great. So I think when we look at a sport like tennis, it's very hard to compare generations. But you are allowed to be as good as you're allowed to be in that particular generation. And so those geniuses of each generation would have been a genius in any generation.
Well, on the topic of AI, the theme of these 2 days has been AI. Wimbledon is taking off the line umpires. That's just a beginning. Going forward, do you think coaching statistics, will coaches be replaced? Now, these days you get answers for almost everything on AI. They analyze the player, they can tell you what exactly is to be done. So do you think at some time players won't need coaches at all and just AI will take over everything and give the solutions or even better solutions which the coaches themselves may not know because so much of data is available, data is analyzed so much. Do you think coaches will be replaced? Line umpires, that's a natural progression, but even going further, coaches, would they be replaced?
So this year they tried it, and I think next year they're going to start to use it. They're going to have AI do the commentary for each match. So from next year onwards, I'm completely free. A lot of things have changed in tennis and will continue to change, for that matter in any sport. So if you look at tennis, the courts have changed, the balls have changed, the rackets have changed, the lines have changed, electronic line calling is in. Everything is changing rapidly and constantly, and yes, you could have a chip in your ear. You don't even need to have a coach there. The guy can be at home watching it on TV and telling you exactly what to do, so you can actually attempt to do it on court. But the one thing that will never change in our sport is how you feel at 4, 5, 15, 30. It doesn't matter what artificial intelligence you have, because at 4, 5, 15, 30, you're the one who has to execute, you're the one who has to feel. And if you have a billion people saying, listen, you better make that shot or else, that's never going to change. So I hope that feeling continues to remain, because that's what makes a boy into a man, or a girl into a woman. I think the most important thing about these things is the pressure you feel under those circumstances at that moment in time. And it's incredible what we've seen today, as we've seen so many girls and boys fall apart in today's environment because of mental health issues, the pressure you feel because either you're doing too well or you're doing too badly. How do you address these things? Those things have to be addressed as we move forward, otherwise our sport will suffer. But the pressure you feel at 4, 5, 30, 40, when the name on your back is not your own, but it's your country's name on your back, it's a feeling that I don't think that anyone can replicate. We cannot take it anywhere else. When they say game India, when you play Davis Cup, they don't say game Vijay, they say game India. And that itself puts a different feeling in your head, because you almost can't afford to lose. That's the feeling you're given. And then how do you handle the pressure? So yes, I think artificial intelligence will be in, there's no question about it. 90% of it is positive, most of it, as I've often said, social media is the most anti-social thing I've ever seen. You have 4 kids sitting around at lunch texting each other. So we've all seen that. So I think when we look at where we're going with all of the technology, I truly hope that as we progress even further and further and further and further, that we're able to use it for positive use.
Well, on commentary, after your professional tennis career, you got into commentary. You were one of those few professional Indians who could be an exceptional commentator. And we used to watch Wimbledon, and not only for the matches, for the pre-match commentary that you used to give. What would you attribute that to? Your English from Don Bosco or your personality? What really made you successful in commentary?
I think the first thing about that is, thankfully the people who were hiring me didn't ask for my school records. But my last playing Wimbledon was 1990. My first year of doing commentary was 1991. Now, I had no idea of television, I had no idea of commentary, I had no idea of how it worked, what you had to say, when you had to say it. Live television, 8 hours every day for a day of Wimbledon, 14 days in a row. How do you handle it? How do you break for commercials? When the commercial comes in, when you do an interview, when do you cut him off, when do you ask the right question, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that goes in. It doesn't look as easy as it sounds. But the thing about commentary for me was to be able to think about the audience. It's not about the player. The commentary for me was to be able to make sure a family of 4 who's sitting at home, watching it on television. Keep in mind it's a visual sport, so I don't have to keep talking over it all the time. They can see it. It's not radio, so I don't have to talk all the time. That's number 1. Number 2 is, 2 people of the 4 may enjoy tennis and may want to know little technical bits about the tennis. So I would give those 2 people whatever I could about my knowledge about the game. The other 2 people might not be interested in tennis at all. How do I pull them into watching the match? Well, then I would talk about so-and-so's girlfriend and so-and-so's boyfriend, and what dog they have, and what they fed the dog for dinner last night, where they ate, and why the dog wasn't allowed to go in. And all of a sudden, both of them are watching it too. Because there's a little bit more of page 3. And once they get in, you can educate them about the game. So to me, it was a constant work in progress. It was an education. It gave me more to understand, because I knew what that guy is going through at 15, 40, 4, 5 on the court. So I know what the feeling is. I try to explain to the audience that's how he feels. And the only thing is, when you're sitting for 8 hours doing 2, 3 matches in a row, you actually don't have time to go to the restroom. Because the match is live and you can't leave. There's only 2 of you doing it. So we managed. Yeah, it wasn't easy. Tennis ball cans came in handy. But the aspect of coverage for us in our part of the world was critical, because it was the first time the network was going to be able to show our sport, all 4 Grand Slams. I was fortunate to do it for 27, 28 years in a row with all the 4 Grand Slams, the Augusta Masters, the British Open Golf, and I hosted the London Olympics. So it gave me a chance to actually understand what television was all about.
BAT was a very successful tennis academy. It produced a wonderful tennis players, Leander Pace, Miles Mukherjee, a whole lot of them. After your generation, Ramesh Krishnan, then we had Leander Pace and Miles Mukherjee. But now Indian tennis looks like, at least to us, is struggling. We don't have the players of that quality anymore. And academies like BAT is still not there. Any thoughts on reviving something like a BAT Academy for the sake of Indian tennis?
Yes, I think it needs to be a younger generation that does it, honestly, because the sport has changed, as I mentioned earlier. Sport has changed constantly, it will continue to change. We need to keep up with the times. We need to see the way the strings have changed, the rackets have changed, the balls have changed, and we need to keep up with those times. That's first. The second thing, coaching techniques also have changed. And we need to be able to adapt to the new coaching techniques. We need more academies on the ground in India, which we don't have. I think the important aspect about sport in India, it is still the world's highest risk startup business. So, as you all know better than anybody else, that if you're an equity investor and you invest in 10 companies that are all startups, there is a likelihood that 1 or 2 are going to hit pay dirt. And it's likely to do well. If you're very lucky, 5, 6, 7 also do well. Some of them do average, some of them didn't out of the ballpark. Whereas if you have 100,000 kids playing tennis, there is a very good chance that one of them is not going to make it. Not even one. I tell you why. Several reasons for it. The first is that on a general basis, Indians, and especially the South as well, we are risk averse. Got some money, put it in the bank. You get 3%, you're doing really well. Not all of you, I'm just saying it's 3%. But if you look at the sport, it is very hard to invest in something that you don't know where it's going. That's why I pay even more attention and credence and glory to my parents, because they were flying blind when we went into tennis. Every single person would ask me when I was there, yes, you play tennis, what do you do for a living? Till I won my first major tournament and won more money in those days than anybody made in a year. But the second question was a tougher one to answer. My late grandmother used to always say to me, why do you have to go so far to lose? So our sport doesn't give us much to work with. It is the biggest chance you could possibly take. But it's interesting to see so many kids of Indian parents in this country, including a young boy from New Jersey who 2 years ago won the junior championships at Wimbledon. From New Jersey, Samir Banerjee, young kid, looks completely local as far as I'm concerned, but it was wonderful to see him win Wimbledon with no help. His uncle, who knew nothing about the game, was sitting in this player's box when he was playing the Wimbledon Junior Final. Nothing. The boy is from New Jersey and he won Junior Wimbledon. Now, of course, I would expect him to go to a great college, which he did, and he obviously got a full scholarship, which he did. Stan Smith always said to me, to get a good, full scholarship in the university in this country, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Dartmouth, you name it, across the board, the best way to get a full scholarship is to have a good serve and not a good GPA. Now, I'm not saying either one of them are bad or good, I'm just saying nice to have both, but athletes in this country, you have a great chance to actually go to a great college, if that's your desire, which is for every Indian parent. So you want children from India also to be aware of it. I get calls all the time about kids in India, who's good, who's not, who's coming up, who's 14 years old, who's 16 years old, who wants to get into a great college. And they're all colleges looking for our kids, because not only are we good at work ethic, we're also great individuals. Great individuals, a good representative of the family, of the city, of the state, of the school, and of the university they're going to go to. So American colleges are looking for that on a regular basis. So that's why it's very difficult for us to take it up seriously. A few years ago when I sat with our Prime Minister, I said to him, sir, are you aware of the fact that collectively in India, we have won less medals than one American athlete. One guy in this country has won more medals in the Olympics than all of India put together. Now, it's not the case with business. It's not the case with business. We own something like 42% of all the hotels and motels in this country. Any Patels here? There must be Patels. So, I'm just saying that we have done exceedingly well because of all of you. We have done so incredibly well that we can be proud of. And India today is a brand name only because of you. That's the great part of it. That's what I enjoy talking about most. But in sport, we are still lagging behind because it is a high risk business. And I think we've got to get off that high horse and make sure that we reinvest in sport like so many other countries do.
Talking on sponsorships, even these days it's very difficult. Anything outside cricket is really difficult in India to find sponsorship. It must have been much more difficult in your days to travel and to pursue a sport which was not followed by many Indians. What is your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think again, success breeds success, and I think because cricket does so well with our own cricket team, we're able to do well with sponsors. But at the end of the day, there are sponsors available. Money is being spent on sport. There is a variety of programs that are around in other sports and across the board. There is the Dravid Prakash Academy in Bangalore. There is the Olympic Gold Quest in Bombay. There are a whole slew of things that are taking place, and there are enough sponsors. There's enough television. There's enough grants that are being given by state governments. State governments are competing with one another as well, which is really very positive. Tamil Nadu government has been nothing short of spectacular in what they've done. I think even the national government continues to support them through the SAI and the sports ministry. So there's lots of money in there that's being given to. I think it's important to take a chance. It's important to take a shot. Someone was saying earlier that the traditional businesses of working for major corporations after you come out of school and college is gone. People rather go out into startups. Rather go out to startups, get equity, be a part of the growth of that particular firm. That's what we should look at in sport as well. We have the talent, there is no question. We have the talent, we have the infrastructure, we have the abilities, we have the land available, we have governments that are available. I think we just have to put our foot down on the pedal.
So going forward, at each stage of your life, you seem to be getting better. Tennis, commentary, then acting. You acted in Star Trek and James Bond. Is there still scope for acting? Do you still look at a career in acting?
Well, they killed me in both those movies. Looking for a script where I don't have to die in, but apparently I must do a great job dying, so they... The thing about the Bond movie was that that was my first picture, major motion picture, and I got cast when I was playing Connors at Wimbledon in '81, right off the centre court at Wimbledon. The producers were watching the match, they asked me to have tea with them afterwards. We tried out over hundreds of actors, we went for the right person. We think you'll be great, have you ever done any acting? I said no, I just played McEnroe a couple of times. And they said, would you do a screen test? So I thought, okay, sure, why not? Let me do a screen test. Who could say this was needed to work? Who could say they played at Wimbledon and worked at Pinewood the same week? So I said, even Federer hasn't been able to do that. So I did it, I worked on it for 14 weeks, I enjoyed it. There were 32 Miss Worlds and Miss Universes in the movie. Yeah. And at the time I was the only single guy.
Okay, guy.
Somebody had to do it, Roger Moore was a spectacular human being. Many years later, he took over from Audrey Hepburn as a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, and then it was also the same time Kofi Annan appointed me as one of the messengers of peace for the UN. So I worked as a messenger of peace for the UN, reporting directly into Kofi Annan's office, and Roger worked as a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, and so we did a lot of UN events together as well. So he and I became good friends. Just the most remarkable human being, an incredible sense of humor, and a true Hollywood icon in his time. I really enjoyed that, and then of course I did Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home, where I played a starship captain in it, and talked in alien terms, like you all were talking this morning. You know? I felt I was back at this Enterprise, Star Trek. But there were two very special moments. But I also did a couple of television series in American television, the first Indian to have a television series of his own in the US. And it was special. One was a sitcom, and one was a action comedy on NBC. And also was privileged to be on the Johnny Carson show, the only Indian in 30 years to be on the Johnny Carson show, which was also very exciting for me. Carson talked about tennis, I talked about movies, he talked about tennis, I talked about movies. And it was a very interesting dialogue that we had. But at the end of the day, the thing about acting also, what it did was, it opened up my creativity, it opened up my taste buds, it opened up a part of my life that I didn't know existed. And it truly taught me about being much more open about what the world is. I always had that enjoyment of being able to hopefully entertain. When I was old enough, I played Santa Claus in my house. And it was the greatest gift of all, to be able to bring gifts to other people. So for me, acting was very much a part of growing up.
What's your daily life schedule these days? I see you're busy with such a lot of activities, but what keeps you busy most of the time? And going forward, what does Vijay Amritraj's future look like?
Well, the first and foremost is the fact that I met a couple of friends here who are 4.5 in the USTA tennis, and the thing that I'm trying to avoid, the number of people I lose to today in tennis has increased dramatically. So I try, that's why, when I come back to presidency, I really have to stay a little bit ahead of the game, He's a very good badminton player, he's a very good tennis player, and it's incredible. This guy has the time to be able to hone those talents as well. So I'm glad he didn't play when we were playing. For me, the issue for health is most important. So I started playing tennis because of health. Today I play tennis because of health. So I play tennis 2-3 times a week. I play 1.5 rounds of golf. I end up going to the gym and so on and so forth. And I make sure I have to have my Indian food at night. That's a vital growth factor for me. But the important aspects of my work life, I say I'm the busiest person being unemployed. It takes me, I work with several brands that I'm very fortunate to be a brand ambassador for. It keeps me going, I enjoy that bit. I enjoy being at events. I enjoy seeing the growth of our sport and many other sports that I see on a regular basis. But most important of all, I enjoy seeing the growth of India worldwide.
One distinct and very unique thing about Don Bosco past people, however great they are and whatever they've achieved, is when you reach out to them for something for the school, they, even without looking at their calendar, would say, hey, let's do it, and then they will get the calendar. In your case, whenever I requested you for any event or appearance for the school, you never said no. Even this one, despite having your Rolex event happening in LA, you found the time to come for a day, meet the past people. What's so special that Don Bosco, about Don Bosco, that you never ever say no to an event, which was whenever we invite you?
I think the most important thing is, when I was in school, I created a bar that was so low. Ever since then, I've been trying to beat it. But Father, I hope I've achieved that at this point. The thing that I admire about our school is the talent that we've had from the teachers, principals, rectors, and the people in charge. And my faith started in school. Father Vincent at the time took catechism class for us every morning. And I remember when we used to go to catechism class at the time, we were half yawning, we had come from tennis, and the last thing we wanted to do was again listen to all the prayers that we started off with. But then that's what ingrained in our minds. And it's exactly the way as to what the teachers did, the principal did, what the rector did. And at the time, Father Nayan, Father Dati, and all of them at that time when we were there, and came out in '68, and I'm sure Dharma feels the same way, that goes into our subconscious, literally, as much as we think we're not listening, we are in fact really been absorbing it. And it's same with my parents. So I think when all of them put together created who you are, and you're going to carry that for the rest of your life. Everything else is only going to be adding on. This has already created the chocolate froth at the bottom, and you're just mixing it after that, when you put everything else, whichever college you go to. But I think the school taught us that at an early age, when you're a sponge. And whether you like it or not, it kind of grows on you and keeps growing within you. And you want to make sure that you're living up to those expectations later in life. Why do we all feel so good about being here together? And being able to celebrate one another, to be able to catch up with one another like we never left. It's the same in my tennis fraternity. I go and meet guys after not having seen them in 15 years, and it's like I played them day before yesterday. So I think we feel that way about Don Bosco for that simple reason. And I think DB and DB Basketball Association, people like yourself and Dharma and everyone here who have made this incredible event possible, have made such a difference. Not just to the school, but each and every one of our lives, to be able to keep us all together and see us, even if it's every 5 years, or 8 years, or 2 years, or 3 years, or whatever it is, that we can do it when we can. So I think, as a friend of mine said, there was a British High Commissioner who was leaving recently, and he was moving to Mexico. And I said to him, oh, it's a big change going from Chennai to Mexico City. And he said, I'm really looking forward to Mexico City. But Chennai was an emotion. And that emotion has been in him, and he's carrying that emotion with him to Mexico City. So to us, it is no different. Don Bosco for us is really a get-together. It's community, it's family, it's emotion. It's everything that is right about what this world should be. And that's what Don Bosco is.
The morning, while introducing the class people's activities, we said that such events are created to bring the Don Bosco community together. I've spoken about what we did during the COVID center. We are truly trying to build on that, connect each and every Don Bosco past people to do something much bigger and much greater. What is your message to the larger Don Bosco community here?
See, we all know this, and I hate of repeating myself, but each and every one of us have so much to offer to the next generation and to the next generation. I did an interview not long ago with the New York Times, and the guy asked me, amongst other things, he asked me, so you've done a variety of things in your life, whether it's tennis, commentary, acting, United Nations, charity work, so on and so forth. What would you consider your greatest success? Is there any particular match that you would consider your greatest success? And he said, oh, it might be a very difficult answer because we've done a wide variety of things. And I said, no, it isn't. It's the easiest question that I've ever had. My greatest success is both my sons call me every day. I don't think there's anything else that beats that, honestly. So when we look at the next generation and what we as a DB community can pass on to the next generation, it is all of our boys and girls of the next generation that need to know this incredible institution that gave us that grounding, that incredible foundation, the roots that Father was talking about today, and given us that opportunity to be able to literally pass it on to the next generation. And if 10% goes down to the next generation, we have done extremely well. And to me, that's the important aspect of it. Each of us brings something to it. Collectively, of course, we're going to do this. These things are enjoyable not just for us, but it'll also be able to, some things that come out of it. But there are lots of things that each of us can do in our respective places. There are lots of things that can follow suit. There are sporting activities that can be created as well, irrespective of where we do it. I think there are numerous opportunities that we have. I think it needs to be shackled and unshackled from the issue of calendars and work ethic and family. And, everyone is at that stage where people have children, grandchildren, travel, and so on and so forth. Grandchildren look at grandparents and say, you guys don't know anything, and children, of course, talking on their own because they're talking on text. Can't talk to them because they have to send you a text. So those kinds of things we have to overcome. But with smart people in this room, I think everything can be overcome. So there we are.
Thanks, Vijay, for such a wonderful fireside chat. Once again, many congratulations for being a superstar of tennis, a superstar of India, and above all, a superstar of Don Bosco.
Thank you.
Vijay has offered 2 special tennis rackets and 3 Rolex balls, which are to be auctioned this evening to raise funds for the school. Once again, many thanks for that, Vijay. Thank you.
Sujit, great job. Dharma, again, great job. Father, thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for not just inviting me and making me continue to be a part of the batches here at the school, but more than anything else, to be amongst all of you on an event like this truly is heartwarming and emotional. So thank you, and God bless each and every one. Thank you.